I hear this argument a lot that AI makes it so impersonal. And we're talking about personal brands. That's totally true. But the question here is, what do I gain using AI? And I think customers gain a lot of speed in getting more information, getting what they need, and getting things done with you and your offerings. I need speed also as the solopreneur. And I think AI is the way to get that needed speed. Sometimes I think that this human touch is overvalued, or at least, to put it another way, I think it is sometimes an excuse not to apply AI. Because to apply AI in that huge degree, I do apply it. I think you need a lot of courage and you need a lot of trust to the system. So you need a lot of that spirit of letting go. For the system, trust the system, and let go.
Mike's got the hat, the AI kind. Unlocking power in business you'll find. Cut through the hype, explore the tech. Every week new ideas to check. All 10 leads us on a digital quest. AI secrets he'll always invest. Tune in tight, don't miss a beat. Knowledge groove, keep you on your feet. Listen up to the AI flow. Business growth, here we go. Cutting edge insights, that's the plan. With the AI hat, you'll understand.
Greetings, program. Welcome back to the AI Hat Podcast, where I selfishly use this time to pick the brains of experts at harnessing the power of AI across all areas of business, from streamlining operations and boosting productivity to gaining a competitive edge and driving explosive growth. Oh, you get to learn too. Subscribe to be shown how to prepare yourself and your brand for this AI revolution and come out ahead. But what if everything you believe about building a successful business is actually keeping you trapped? Most solopreneurs think more hours equals more money, but they're stuck in what I call the hamster wheel of hustle, running faster and faster while getting nowhere because they're doing everything manually. You become the bottleneck in your own business, and no matter how talented you are, there are still only 24 hours in a day. But what if you could flip the script entirely and build a thriving six-figure business working just 25 hours a week? I've brought you someone who's living proof this isn't just possible, it's proven. Meet Tim Cortinovis, a man who's been working with AI for 35 years and has cracked the code on anti-hustle entrepreneurship. Tim is a best-selling author of 6 books, including Agentic Sales, AI and the Future of Sales, and he's recognized as a top 10 thought leader in Agentic AI. But here's what makes Tim remarkable. He's built a 6-figure consulting business that runs almost entirely on autopilot, requiring just 25 hours of his time per week. His newsletter runs completely hands-free with 40% open rates, and he's created an AI assistant named Rick, who handles all customer communications. Tim isn't just talking about the future of AI in business, he's living it every single day. Hey, Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, thank you so much for having me. It is a total pleasure to be here.
My pleasure to have you. This is going to be such a fun conversation. It's the kind of topic that I have been thinking about, writing about, struggling with, even dare I say, on a day-to-day basis. I mentioned you've been working with AI for 35 years. I think that's longer than most people have even heard of AI. How did you transition from traditional work to building this incredibly efficient solopreneur business model?
Yes, I was one of my strongest drivers here is I have 2 lovely daughters and a wonderful wife, and I want to spend time with them. And me and my wife, we are splitting the care work for our daughters, 50% to 50%. And so from the very beginning on, there was a huge need to automate my business. And I started, as you said, my journey into AI 35 years ago. Was a very nerdish young boy at my first computer in the 1980s. And I started programming it with something like Pepper. It had nothing to do with what we have today, but it was a first glimpse of that idea of the machine taking over some part of our thoughts and of our work. And so I got obsessed with it, and I studied linguistics with a strong focus on computer linguistics. And just after leaving university with a degree in 2001, I started working in a first AI company. We automated websites in the sense that could detect, oh, there's Mike and he's reading some text on deserts. And so we can propose him the latest coffee table book from the publisher about the Saharan desert. So that kind of things. And that got me thinking how to automate marketing and sales a little bit more. And so I founded my own company in 2011. Since then, I'm traveling the globe, giving workshops, holding keynotes in English, German, and Spanish about how to apply AI and AI agents recently in our businesses. And of course, my own business is automated to a very, very high degree, as you mentioned it, to work less and less and not to decrease my revenue and not to decrease it.
Fantastic. So let's talk about how you are working less. I mentioned a 25-hour work week, which to some might sound even fanciful. Can you break down exactly how those 25 hours are allocated, what your typical work week looks like?
Yeah, it is a lot of my working hours is spent in knitting systems, knitting and setting up systems to automate more work. And you mentioned Rick. Rick is my personal AI assistant for me, and it handles a lot of my mundane tasks and also my customer operations and communications. And I still work a lot in improving Rick to get better answers, to get a better tone of voice and so on. And I think about what can I automate more. Each and every day we are growing very fast and we get more and more tools. And yes, right now I love this hype. I love this AI summer we are seeing right now, as I've been into it so long. And I like trying out new tools and trying to get more things done right now. What I'm able to do right now in August 25 is more than I was able to do in April 25. And so I'm applying more and more. And so a lot of my daily work is done in setting up more systems. And the second part is also, you will wonder about this, but it is communicating with people. I like to answer a lot of emails manually, as I free my time also to have more meaningful conversations and to answer emails and to think broader ideas and to communicate with people to get a broader sense of the whole and to reduce the administrative tasks. So, and the third part of my working hours is spent on developing more ideas for new books, developing on how to grow my business. And I recently read a very fascinating book that's called 10 Times is Easier Than 2 Times by Dan Stewart, I think it's the author's name. And it is talking about how to grow your business 10 times. And it really results easier than 2 times. I observe this a lot in my business.
Fascinating. I love how you're illustrating through that answer. Now, folks, go back and maybe listen to it again. Because Tim, you talked about spending more time on personal communication and emails and strategic thinking. What you're talking about is how the automation of the routine tasks in your life, in your business, has freed you up to devote that time to other things. A lot of us today, I think, frankly, who are using AI a little bit piecemeal, we're automating a system there, a process there, and we're saving a little bit of time. Well, we're just pouring that time back into other routine tasks and other mundane things. We're not saving ourselves so much time that we can reallocate to strategic thinking and activities, and B, just reduce the total amount of time that we're working. I'm not to your point yet. I'm working full time for Agorapulse, still 40 plus hours a week. I'm doing the side hustle, 10 to 20 hours a week. So my week is still huge and filled with work, but I'm getting there. Now, obviously, it feels like almost your entire business runs on AI. If you could walk us through just some of the core systems, the tools that make this possible, because I just switched a lot of my business processes to Notion, for instance,
Yeah.
because now I can incorporate Zapier and LLMs, generative AI to automate some tasks, and I'm working in that respect. What's your AI tool stack?
Yes, before I answer, Mike, I just wanted to say I have an unfair advantage. When I try out something and when I do this automation, I'm able to monetize it as I'm giving keynotes and I'm getting paid for the knowledge on how to automate this. So there's at least a twofold opportunity in it. Okay, so my tech stack. Basically, I work a lot with OpenAI's GPTs, GPT-4o and GPT-5, of course, by now. And I really concentrate on that. Sometimes I work a little bit with Claude as well, but I try to focus on fewer LLMs to reduce the time of the onboarding and so on. And I use for text production and nearly all tasks, I used GPT-5 from OpenAI, and for market research and for background research, I use Perplexity a lot. I love Perplexity. And also when my little one, she's 9 years old and she has a lot of questions about the nature around us. And I always take out my phone and ask Perplexity about the trees we see and the animals we observe and so on. So I like this really a lot. And okay, to go more in detail, for instance, the platform I work with and I build the agents upon is make.com. I like this a lot. I worked a lot with Zapier as well, but I encounter Make more intuitive and there are more connections, more native connections. I think connections to 1,300 applications. And it's really, really easy to connect things and to build automated workflows and agents to run on their own. And yeah, let's start with the newsletter, for instance. Some 3.5 years ago, I observed that 25% of my working hours were spent on research, and I had to go through New York Times, TechCrunch, Recode each and every week, again and again on researching articles, blog posts, podcasts on AI in sales or AI and automation in marketing. And so I automated the whole process using curation, AI, and I shifted now this year and I use in the workflow with make.com, I use Perplexity to do the research every Friday morning. And then this is handed over, the news, 10 news each week, and it is handed over to GPT-5. And GPT-5 produces a very well formatted and well written newsletter out of this. This is published automatically to my WordPress blog. And from there, my CRM system and gateway takes the new entries in this RSS feed and publishes these items to the newsletter subscribers via email. Yes, as you mentioned, I've open rates by 40% and click rates by 20-30%. And so obviously people are reading my newsletter. They love it. I'm getting a lot of feedback on this. And recently, 4 weeks ago, I started an automated synthetic podcast made of my synthesized voice with 11 Labs. So there's another make.com scenario, they call this workflow, where we take the new entries with the 10 news items every Friday morning, and GPT-5 writes podcast script, and this is synthesized via 11 Labs and published automatically. It is still in the beginning, but on the very first week, we had some 80 listeners on the podcast, which I think is not that bad. and I hope we will grow in the future. And it is very, very short. It's 6 minutes about AI in sales news. And I also get a lot of feedback on this podcast. So last point here to mention is Rick, my AI assistant. Rick has two front ends, and you can communicate as one of my customers via WhatsApp or Messenger and via email with Rick. Rick answers and has been answering the last 11 months all of my incoming emails. I first identify the intent of an email, whether it is an inquiry from me as a speaker or a task from me in an ongoing project or just an information or newsletter. And according to that qualification, that intent identification, it is handled in the workflow. And I right now added also some research on the inquirer. So if you send me an email with an inquiry and I got the domain of your email, I do the research with Perplexity, and the automated answer from Rick is based on the research it does with your domain. So I'm able to answer an inquiry with a matching of my keynotes or my offerings with that background from the inquirer. And this is sent out automatically. So, and I have another scenario with Rick, and Rick is handling all my assistant work. So, for instance, if I am going to send you, Mike, an email with two proposals for meetings next week, I just send Rick a WhatsApp message asking Rick to check my calendar for next week and send to Mike two proposals for next week when I'm available to talk. And it handles it all alone. So it checks my calendar, it searches my CRM database for your email address and sends out a proposal with the 2 dates to you, all on its own without my supervision at all. And the last one here, this is what I'm working on right now, is I'm putting all my contact data from the CRM system, which I find a little bit outdated right now. I think CRM systems are not that good as they used to be. So I'm building a Pinecone vector database out of my contacts clients database. So this is very good for AI access. And I will handle all my follow-ups and all the sales process with an agent in Make that has access to the Pinecone database and is able to check whether an inquiry has an answer or a decision right now, and if not, is able to decide whether to send a follow-up email and to ask the inquirer on my behalf where the obstacle is and what the decision is, or what we can do together to get to the decision.
Fascinating. Now I have a AI system of my own. Mine's named Clue, my AI chief of staff. It's very much an internal resource for me to use as a strategic brainstorming partner, that sort of thing.
Okay, that's
and
great.
I teach people how to create an AI work buddy, which is basically an AI chief of staff for themselves. But these aren't customer facing. How did you train Rick to authentically sound like you and talk like you when answering emails and WhatsApp messages and so on?
Yes. The first thing, of course, Rick is nothing more than an assistant GPT from OpenAI. It's quite easy. You set up the assistant GPT and just upload all the documents you have. And as I've written a lot of books by now, I have a lot of material. So it has all the books I've written, and also I have a lot of recorded keynotes and podcast sessions. I have lots of interviews like this one, and I've uploaded everything. So Rick has more or less all the knowledge I have. Okay, minus the books and other stuff I read in the way, but everything I produced more or less over the last 5 to 6 years is in it. My first goal was to have an assistant GPT that is able to answer sales related questions to my clients. That is possible by now. I have no content for this, but that is the reason why it works so well also in answering my emails. It has a tone. It knows my tonality 100%. And right now, as this is part also of the broader knowledge of ChatGPT, I'm able to go to to blank ChatGPT without being logged in, without being in my profile, and I can prompt my own persona to get better results. This is quite a good thing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Folks, we're talking with Tim Cortinovis about the incredible power AI has to streamline operations and free us up to focus on more strategic tasks. And I've got several more questions you're not going to want to miss. But first, a quick word from our sponsor.
This episode of AI for Business Leaders, the AI Hat podcast, is brought to you by Magi. Tired of juggling multiple AI subscriptions and trying to figure out which tool to use and when? Magi simplifies AI for businesses by offering access to all the leading language models and image and video generators for one low price. With Magi, you can create custom instructions to personalize AI for every business need and use them across all LLMs, including ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and even DeepSeek. No more building custom GPTs or gems that are limited to just one platform. Magi also lets you create customized workspaces for your entire team, giving everyone in your organization access to the same AI assistants and tools and prompts. Ready to streamline your AI workflow and empower your team? Tap the link in the show notes to visit Magi today to learn more. And now, back to the rest of today's episode.
So, Tim, I think some of the solopreneurs listening might be hearing you talk about your fully automated blog, your fully automated newsletter, your fully automated podcast, and thinking, wow, that sounds very impersonal. How do you maintain human connections while running all this on AI autopilot?
Yeah, of course. So this has a little bit of an inhuman touch. I'm deeply convinced that when the content is valuable, it doesn't matter that much. I don't think that you can sell and market everything doing this, but in my case, in my very special case, it is congruent. So I'm talking about automation, and so it's totally natural that I use automation myself. But the things are getting better, and for instance, the synthesized podcast is I've played it to my family, and they were not able to decide whether it is my own voice or my synthesized voice. So it is getting better and better and better each and every day. And yes, of course, in the newsletter, there is still, you will detect it as AI produced from the first moment on. But it is so valuable and it has all my ideas in it that it is worth this downside. And I hear this argument a lot that AI makes it so impersonal. And we're talking about personal brands. That's totally true. But the question here is, what do I gain using AI? And I think customers gain a lot of speed in getting more information, getting what they need, and getting things done with you and your offerings. I need speed also as the solopreneur. And I think AI is the way to get that needed speed. And I think it is worth the loss of the personal human touch. Sometimes I think that this human touch is overvalued, or at least, or to put it another way, I think it is sometimes an excuse not to apply AI, because to apply AI in that huge degree, I do apply it. I think you need a lot of courage and you need a lot of trust to the system. So you need a lot of that spirit of letting go. Put the system, trust the system, and let go. And I know that a lot of solopreneurs struggle with this, and they struggle with employees also. They might have, and they're always supervising their employees, not trusting the results, and because things are not done the way they 150% want them to be done, and they can't let go. And I'm the Pareto principle is my first amendment, I think you say. This is very very, very important principle. With 20% of your efforts, you get 80% of your results. And that is more so true with AI. And yes, I think in most cases, this 20% of effort are enough, and you don't have to be perfect, and you can live with an AI assistant rig, sometimes going rough, but in the last 11 months, there has never been a super accident. And I found the stories right now for my keynotes of what Rick did and what went very well. And the very, very few cases where Rick did not act according to the situation do not matter that much.
Got it. Well, I couldn't agree more. In fact, everybody listening, I want you to hold on to this truth. Not every piece of content and copy has to be written by a human being.
Yep.
Yes, there are specific examples. Maybe you've been publishing a newsletter for 10 years and it's, an op-ed, your opinion on, whatever subject matter it is that you're talking about. Should you replace that with AI? No. You've got an audience that has come to value and respect your opinion, and that's what they're looking for. But I loved your example, the podcast, Tim, because correct me if I'm wrong, you weren't podcasting before. And if you didn't have all this free time, you probably wouldn't have started a new podcast. So that's an additional channel that you're leveraging that other people can now listen and learn from and gain from, that's made possible due to AI. Was that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yes, that's the point here. If I hadn't the chance to use 11 Labs and AI to produce a podcast, I wouldn't do it, because you know it very well by heart. I think it is a lot of work. I've done podcasting in the year 2007 with the first novel I wrote, and I podcasted that first novel in German language. Then it was a lot of work for all episodes, and I wouldn't do this without technology right now. Yes, but I see that people are valuing this speed and this information they get, and also the short format. The 6 minutes are enough to get to know the state of the art of AI agents in sales this week.
Yeah, this is my third personal podcast. I've had a bunch with Agora Pulse, but the first two never made it past the 10th or 12th episode because it was so much work. And there's a different mindset with podcasting. Like you said, you had 80 downloads the first episode. That's fantastic. If you're not in the podcasting world, 80 doesn't sound like a lot, but 80 people actively listening to your show is an incredible amount. And because of the nature of the medium, I value each and every one of you that are listening right now, because we are literally in your head right now. And that's very different from like a blog post that somebody might skim, or worse yet, a social media post. So it's a different medium, but it's a lot more challenging. And so for me to be on my 100th episode today, it's only possible because I have AI helping me every step of the way. Obviously, you and I are very real. That's an authenticity check here in the middle of the show. We are not AI generated, but I create the materials for the show, the questions, the processing, the editing, all that's helped or done by AI. And
you really use AI for editing. How do you do it? I wonder, because I searched for an editing tool and I still struggle. I would like to include some music in my podcast, and I have some music, and there are some ways to combine automatically MP3 files, but right now for me this doesn't work. How do you do it?
Yeah, well, it's definitely not automated. I use Descript, which I love. I'll put a link to it in the show notes.
Descript is great.
But it's not automated, right? It's going to automatically apply sound levels, and it's going to automatically remove the ums and ahs and filler words and get rid of a lot of the audio stuff that I was spending way too much time. My first podcasts were all solo episodes. They were probably 10 or 15 minutes each tops, and I would spend 2 hours editing a 10 or 15-minute show. No more. These are now long-form interviews. Our show is probably going to end up topping out at 45 minutes or so. And I'll spend an hour editing it. And that's mostly simply because I'm listening to everything that you've said in that show, Tim, in this recording, and I'm picking out the clips that I want to use. I am dropping in the music clips myself. So none of that's automated yet. But like to your earlier point, These tools are literally improving every single day. I've been in social media marketing for 2 decades, and we used to joke how fast social networks changed. But then AI came along and said, hold my beer. I'm literally going to change every single day. So it's all improving. So folks, if something you're trying to do isn't working quite right today, just relax, just wait. It'll be better tomorrow. You mentioned your novels. I want to talk about that because you've written 6 books, which to me is insane. I have one published book with Entrepreneur Press, which was so painful. I'll probably never publish a novel again. You've done 6 while working just 25 hours a week. How did AI play into that? How did it change your content creation process? How did it help or get involved in your thought leadership? How did AI help you there?
Yes, I reveal a secret here. And I'm not talking often about this. My last 3 books were almost entirely written by AI. And I've created a process and it's very well structured, also using Make. And first I write the outline with AI. I give it just the prompt to give me a high pitch of a book in that direction. And I got the outline. Sometimes I correct a little bit in the outline, and then I let it write the outlines of chapters for this one. And I refine these outlines even more using AI in the same process. And then it writes the whole chapters for me. And when this is done, I read really, really carefully the output. And sometimes I change something, but most of the outcome is written in a way that I would have used if I had written them by myself. It is just shorter, faster, and it is done by the machine. And I think this is the future of one part of the future of book writing. I don't believe that a lot of book readers in the future will build their very own books. But for instance, if you're looking for a book about fishing in Namibia, in the southern part of Africa, and there's no such book on the market, you could go there and let the book write just for you. And I think this will be one or for instance, I'm a sailor and I love stories and books around sailing and history. And I'm very interested in the history of the Polynesian sailors some 3,000 years ago. And I would love to read a novel about, let's say, maybe a crime scene based on some sailors in the Polynesian era some 3,000 years ago. There's no such novel on the market. And I would like to read this novel. And this is probably the next one I am going to write, maybe just for me, because there won't be any market for this kind of novels. I think this will be a huge future of book creation. And I don't think this is not synthetic. It's a new era of creation. I call it co-creation with the AI. And I'm not feeling to be a liar on this. I'm just creating the book. And if you see a movie, for instance, you have the director of the movie, and the director does not make the filming, does not write the script, does not hold the camera, nothing like this, and does not act in front of the camera. But they are the directors of the movie, and the movie is known for the director. And I think this kind of book creation is something similar. So to be an author, you don't need to write the book anymore. You need to have the idea and to assemble the whole thing and to orchestrate everything in the book. And that is my personal conception of this co-creation.
I love that analogy of the film director. I'm doing something very similar today, where every time I run into some aspect of my own business that either I've never done it before, or it's something I'm doing today, but it occurs to me, I could do this better. Maybe I've been doing it a certain way just because that's the routine I had. So like today, this morning, the morning that we're recording this, I happened to drop this week's podcast episode. And I was doing the normal stuff that I do when I promote a podcast episode. And then it dawns on me, what am I not doing? What am I forgetting? Right? What is it that I'm not aware of that I should be doing to promote a podcast episode? So the habit I've trained myself to do is to jump into Gemini, that's my preferred LLM, and run a deep research and have Gemini go out and research 100 different websites. And I'll typically tell it something like, look only at, sources dated this year or last year, depending on the topic. If it's AI, it's got to be this year. If it's something a little more social media related, maybe I'll go back a year or two, right? Or if it's historical, you can go way back. And is able to not only pull, best practices, information, guides, and so on, but of course I can give it context about my business. I'm a solopreneur. This is the AI Hat podcast, or whatever it is, whatever the topic it is, right? And so all the research is done for me. It's co-created with me, for me, what I need in that very particular moment. Just like you decided, I want a crime novel about the Polynesians from centuries ago. That's what I feel like today. So let's create that today for ourselves. I love that. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced when transitioning from a lot of the manual operations that maybe you used to do to this AI powered, completely or virtually completely automated model? How did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, first of all, there are technical glitches and obstacles, and tech doesn't always work as it is supposed to work. So there are obstacles, and sometimes I have days where I spend way too more time with my head in this nitty gritty of the coding or of the putting together different tools to work. And sometimes I overcome these obstacles using AI and asking Claude or ChatGPT, how can I do this? Or watching YouTube videos, of course. Sometimes I hire freelancers on Fiverr. This is for me the most effective way normally. But yes, this has also some downsides. But I work a lot with coding freelancers on Fiverr, and letting things go. As I said, sometimes I overcome the obstacles by just shifting and asking myself, do I really need this kind of result, or can I live with a lesser one? So sometimes I have that approach. That's basically it.
That makes complete sense, because I went through something very similar recently, and I blogged about it. I was in the hospital waiting for my wife to go through a procedure, and I had a couple hours that I knew I'd be sitting there in the waiting room. So I thought, I'm going to take this opportunity to try and automate some stuff with Zapier, and it was just not working at all. Every single step, I ended up having to break it up into multiple steps, and it just got more and more complicated. And at the end, I had to ask that same question: do I really need this? Am I saving myself time? Can I live with a lesser result? Because sometimes, the challenges are too great to overcome in that regard. But I'm wondering, Tim, last question for you. For a lot of the folks that are listening, maybe like me, they're working 60 hours a week, feeling overwhelmed. They love this idea of a 25-hour work week. They love this idea of automating way more of their lives, of their professional lives, and so on. Where do they start? How do they get started in this 25-hour model?
Yeah, first thing is ask the chatbot of your choice where do you have to start. That's it. It's so easy, and you don't need any more advice or watching more YouTube videos. Just ask the chatbot where to start, and this is a very tough truth here, you have to put time away to develop these kinds of automations. There is no other way to do this. You have to say no to some things to free up your time to focus on this. So I know a lot of people working lots and lots of hours and telling me they don't have the time to keep up with the latest developments, and they're always complaining. And I just can tell them, you have to put away things to free your mind and to start using this. This is we've observed this in automation for the last 50 years. You have when you work normally, you have a flat line. You work and you work and you work, and what you are able to accomplish on a certain day, working 8, 10, 12 hours maybe, and you're on a flat line. And with automation, you always have that kind of peak, and it's a very, very steep peak at the beginning. And you have to learn a lot and to get familiar with new tools and everything. And then once you got over the peak, it goes down and it saves you time. And then you're here, you're not there anymore. And from there on, the automation runs and you're freed your time. But you need to go over this peak. There's no other way.
That is a fantastic note to leave on. Tim, you've been absolutely amazing. And this has been such a critical interview. I hope folks listening, you go back and listen to it a couple more times and really ingest all these lessons and concepts that Tim's been sharing. But for folks who want to reach out to you, maybe they've got more questions, Tim, where should they go?
If they have more questions, I hang around a lot on LinkedIn. They will find me and I answer all of my DMs personally. Don't be afraid of an answer from Rick. But if you can get answers of Rick on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn profile, you will find my link tree. And there is also the connection to Rick via WhatsApp, Messenger, or email. And there we can go in contact, and then we can get in contact. And you will find all of my books on the Amazons. Just go to Amazon and search for Tim Cortinovis, and you will find all of my latest and the older books I've written.
Fantastic. Thanks all of you for listening. That's all the time we've got for today. Of course, we'll have all of Tim's links and books in the show notes below. And if you're still trying to wrap your head around where to start, I'll throw a link to my scalability audit in the show notes below as well. It's a free download. It's a worksheet. It'll take you 15 minutes across 3 days. And it'll help you identify the areas of your business where you're investing a significant amount of time right now that could be automated and helped with AI. So check that out. Until next time, welcome to the grid.
That's a wrap on another episode of the AI Hat Podcast. I hope you gained some valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your business with AI. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. And don't forget to visit theaihat.com for more resources and to connect with me. Until next time, keep innovating, and remember, the future of business is human and it's powered by AI.